Yo, okay, so we've got audio. Welcome back to the Patreon subscriber only breakdown of this Sånn Dag video. The first part was a teaser because I want to try and keep all of this work as exclusive for the Patreon people only. And it's also good because we get to see an in-depth insight into the work that I create and talk a little bit deeper about technology and how I use it to create the motion pictures that we're seeing right now. So following on straight up from the first one, I'm going to jump straight over into the DaVinci Resolve. Here we're looking at the intro title screen again of Sånn Dag. Now, here we can just go back a little bit and have a look at this title screen and talk a little bit more about this one. This is a pretty simple technique, really, overall, because we're just doing a reveal. We'll go. Let's go step by step, and we can see that we've got a pretty good reveal of the text. Now, what I did here was I put a mask, a reveal mask, so and let that track and follow the car. I'm not going to do a tutorial on this at all, but I'm just explaining some of the techniques that I used in the editing of this short film to be able to get some of the effects like we did here. So this is just a pretty easy reveal mask, and the text has a slight zoom in, and you know that effect is really fantastic if you want that dynamic title on the screen, if you wish, of course. Shot on a beautiful day, actually just up my neighbour's house up the road here, and this is pretty much the view that we have in the summertime. Pretty beautiful area to film in. As you can see here, I love the composition of this. We have the mountain in the background. We have these kind of leading lines to the title. We have this lovely big tree and some of these forest backgrounds here. A little bit of a slide, just because this actual little road thing here leads up to a barn. I love this. This was a really pleasurable scene to create when filming this one. So let's go further on, revealing the next one. I'm going to put the audio back on this one and just let the first scene run through. We'll just have a look at the scene all the way through until it comes to its first cut, and then we'll go back and explain that one and talk about some of the techniques that I used for filming this one. So let's go.
Nei da. Ja, jeg har tatt med CV-en og testen og alt. Ja, jeg bare øver litt i bilen. Ja. Ja da, jeg har barbert meg, mamma. Herregud. Du, jeg må bare legge på. Jeg er snart fremme. Ok.
All right. Okay, so it looks like my computer is having a little bit of a struggle doing the recording and playing back of this. So we'll just jump through it, not to delay anymore. This was all one shot, of course. I do believe I had this on a gimbal, so I don't remember getting any behind-the-scenes shots or photos of me inside the car with this. Maybe one, I think I have. Anyway, it's regardless. So having the gimbal was really good to keep the camera as still as possible. I believe I had the gimbal, yeah. And this is the Tokina lens, the 11-16 on this, so it was able to get a lot of the elements inside of the car. So Krista's on the phone here talking to his mum, explaining that yes, he's got his CV and all of this. really good technically. We had the sun coming in from a pretty good, 45, maybe, 45 degrees ish, depending on where we were. So it gave enough definition to give us light inside of the car, but without blinding light over the windscreen. And I'll zoom in on the picture a little bit more here. We see also Krista as he is driving along, just like having the talk on the phone, just here inside of the rear view mirror. So if we go full screen and just let that one play through, let's hope that my computer can hold up on this one. So we go through. Everything is pretty much as it is. We tried to make this one whole shot as good as possible. So Krista goes here. I'll just turn the sound on back for this one because audio is very interesting to capture in these circumstances. I had backup A and B for this shot because I was really unsure of how I was going to pull this off. So the audio that we're hearing right now is just a shotgun mic on top of the camera, which was the Rode Video Mic Pro or something like this. Anyway, the little shotgun mic you can plug into the 3.5mm jack. So that was the audio that we got here. So it's pretty decent audio, really, for a zero budget short film. Talking a little bit more about the composition. So we've got Krista here on the left-hand side. I love this kind of shot. The over the shoulder shot. So we've got some direction going on here. The lines following our ultimate sort of goal, which is there in the distance. But we also got this lovely element of Krista looking into the rear view mirror here. So we're able to see quite a lot in this picture, and I find it fascinating to get into a place and figure out what a good composition is here. Now I decided we did go through a few times and think, okay, maybe we should sit in the passenger seat as if he was sitting from the perspective, if I was sitting from the perspective as a passenger, but I thought, you know what, it's not necessary. I kind of like the over-shoulder shot, and here we got the rear view mirror in here, and this was the best shot because you also got to see what was going on as we were driving along. So here, Krista introduces himself, and he starts doing a trial interview with Joachim, the interviewer.
Hei, Christer her. Veldig hyggelig at du inviterte meg hit. Nei. Hei, Christer her. Hyggelig å hilse på deg og Joachim. Flott lokale.
So here again, this is pretty tricky to do. We had to drive back and forward a few times to get this right. I think it was maybe 7 times we had to film this scene, just because timing was a bit off, because we needed to get down to that corner as he was beginning to do that. We needed to go over the first speed bump, so he finished with a conversation with his mum to throw his telephone down, to throw his telephone with the right hand down, to show that, there was quite a lot of elements there to get right, and they were kind of step-by-step elements here. And it's interesting when you're out there shooting and thinking in your head to try and direct it well, and to have that discussion with your actor, Krista, to have that discussion with him and go, hey man, let's just review that and see if that was all right. And he was very good, and he was critical about his acting. He was like, the conversation wasn't spot on, or my expression wasn't right, or timing was off. And that's cool. You've got to go with that because sometimes that is crucial when choosing the right scene in the editing room. And that's pretty much what we did there. We looked at our material as we went along just to try and make sure that we had a good take to take home with us, because it was going to be very difficult to replicate that with the same atmosphere and look as what we had there today, because we were subject really just to natural light only. So introducing himself here. We go over the speed bump. I'll just fast forward it as we go around here. So just before here, I'll turn the audio back on and just let it roll until it gets to its next point, and that will go further and further into the technical aspect and what techniques we used here, which was really fun. And I'll go back to the blog pictures, or the behind the scenes pictures, just to show you a reference of what techniques we used and how we used that to cut in and out of these scenes. So we'll just let it roll.
Hei, Christer her. Hyggelig å hilse på deg også. Fin blå skjorte. Kom igjen da! Hva faen? Helvete, ass!
Okay, so I'm just going to cut it there. Yes, really exciting, I know. But let's go all the way back to where we came around the corner. So keeping composition was very tricky. Not really, actually. I wanted to keep this this rear view mirror here, revealing Krista, his eyes more clearly. Beautiful shot here. So we go into the street. This is the street that we're heading towards the interview. So now the telephone comes on. The telephone is the protagonist. And actually, what a funny thing about this scene is here on the telephone, what we can see is Jostein. And Krista says Joachim. So that was a mistake we decided to keep there, because it's kind of funny, because, you know, through stress you forget names, you forget things and details, and here was just a classic moment that was really authentic, and we decided to roll with it. Here there's no green screen, as you can see. This is just the telephone ringing. The car is not moving here. I'm exhibiting a little bit of handshake just to give the appearance that the car is moving. So just to get out of full screen on this one, let's head over to the blog and I'll show you exactly the setup here. So this is not actually when we are driving or in that street at all. This was pre-planned. And also as we go here, so Krista knocks it down, the telephone down into the footwell. So if we go back to full screen, phone rings, hand comes across, and of course two cuts, or two different perspectives. So Krista is going down to attempt to get the phone. So as we see here in the heat of the moment, this is what's going on. Back to this perspective of him driving. So here and here, the car is not actually moving at all. So if we go back to the blog here, this is where I've got the handheld rig, and I'm with the car. Where are we? Yeah. So here's the scene. So here's the car door open, and I've got the camera down in this footwell. Got the reflector here to shine off into Krista's face, as we can see here in this one, so we can bring up the exposure. You can see a little bit that there is quite hot, but what we're trying to achieve really is to make sure that we've got enough level to keep Krista exposed in this one. Otherwise, without that reflector, as you can see here, he would just be in shadow, like you can kind of see here inside the car. So as you can see, I exhibit handshake just to give that feeling that the car is moving. What gives it away actually is that the background here, the clouds, aren't moving. So spoiler alert, that's going to ruin your experience now. Sorry about that, but I had to point that out. But you know, we didn't have a budget at all, so we had to make it as believable as possible within the safe constraints. You know, that was going to be a really difficult scene if I didn't have the car door open and all that kind of stuff. But Yeah, and also we had to roll the car further out so it revealed sky and not the house, etc., etc. You know, attention to detail. We're trying to figure out what's the best perspective to take on this, and the details that don't have reflections and all this kind of stuff. Difficult, but totally doable. That's the fun of it. So again, trying to make it as believable as possible, cutting in and out of these scenes, and that's the fun of it. So I will skip right along to where was it? Yeah, here. So this technique, unfortunately, I have no behind the scenes of this one, and I wish I had a photo of it or somebody filming it, because it was really cool. I had my skateboard with me, and I had the camera in my hand. I just had it like proper skateboarder's grip. So this is like inspired from skateboarders. So on my skateboard, holding the camera as still as possible, moving as close as possible to the to the car, just to give it that perspective. And with the skateboard, it still gave that dynamic push forward and follow, and as the car swerved, etc., etc. I believe that actually in this scene, it is a crop in, because I had it pretty wide out because I wasn't able to keep up with the car in this one. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little break, and I'll be back because I actually have to change some batteries over on my audio device. So let's just do that. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are now back, and we are fresh with batteries. And I need a sip of coffee. Oh, so good. Typical, camera cup, lens cup. Let me get that one right. So where were we? We were back talking about the technical aspects of filming. So the last scene was cutting in and out of different perspectives. So we had the camera in the hand grip position. So let me get a camera just to bring a point of different positions. So I don't have the black magic anymore, but I had a top grip on the camera, also to hold my monitor and all this kind of stuff. So I was on a skateboard, and I literally just had the camera in a hammer grip like so, and hand support with the lens, and on the skateboard, and I just gave a couple of kicks, and I held the camera as steady as possible. Yeah, and that's what got that shot. So that's the really cool thing about knowing how to skate. No, but that's the really cool thing about figuring out different techniques of how to get perspectives, and how to pull off the right feeling and emotion and movement all mixed into one, and also trying to keep it in focus as well. But if we go over to back over to the screen here, we see that that sort of dynamic movement there. So it's not perfect. It's not by any means like super duper Hollywood, but it works as an effect. We've got that movement, as you can see there, and that camera shaky movement in the hand. Again, I'm kind of skating along down low and getting into that picture, and that's really like what filmmaking is all about, is to get that perspective, from my perspective at least anyway. Again, I think I used the Tokina 11-16 for this one. That was my kind of go-to lens throughout this entire project. Let's move along a little bit. Yeah, so we're going to
Kom igjen, da!
It's getting grumpy.
Faen!
Now he's realised that his shirt is stuck in the door. So here is gimbal work, as you can see. Let's go back and have a look at this one. Full screen. Now that's skateboard. Now I've got my camera, well, I had the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera on the gimbal, and I had it turned to the side. So I was, if we are to switch out of this screen, so I was with the gimbal like so, keeping an eye on what was coming in front of me, of course, you know, because they're public walking up and down these ways. Now I was on a longboard and I had the camera on the gimbal, so essentially the camera is pointed like at that angle. I don't even know what angle, 90-degree angle? Yeah, I guess 90 degrees like that, isn't it? So if we're going from there, the camera was faced there, facing towards the car. So I was keeping an eye on where I was going. I had a monitor on the camera, I believe, from memory, or if I just winged it, I can't remember. But I had the camera like so and following the car and its speed. So Krista also had to keep an eye out on me, even though he was acting at the same time. It was a lot of fun, to say so at the least. So we'll go back to the Magic here. So as we can see, the Krista is getting like super grumpy in the car here. Really great because we had the lighting that was working with us. So we had the light coming pretty much back of the scene, so it wasn't glaring in to our shots, which was really, really good. You know, by luck, we kind of did the timing as well, really. But with this scene, on a skateboard, hammering down, trying to follow the pace of Krista, and Krista's also, during all of that, trying to see that I'm still there, keeping up with him, which is fun. And I think a car goes past. I can't remember. Must have gone past in one of the scenes, maybe at the outro. But anyway, so that's gimbal work, and I put a 50mm on this one, so I could get a little bit of the separation of the background and kind of have a bit more focus on the door and the car and the action that's going on here. And I stopped it down to f5.6 from memory. So that was that. So this is the wide shot, Takina. Again, Takina, and then we are back outside. And talking about continuity throughout the picture, it was something about timing that we had to get all these shots right, because here what you can see in the foreground, if we go back here, we go back here, we've got this intersection, we've got this sign, and this was somewhat a bit of a challenge to try and get done, but it was good to follow this continuity, making sure these steps were believable along the way. So they jump a little bit, but it's still believable. So we're past that intersection now. Again, it feels believable. We've got that sign here, and we're back in the car. So here we have just gone past the intersection, which you can see probably in the rear view mirror here. Maybe not on this side, sorry. And we've just gone past the sign, and he's just gone down for the struggle again. Looking there, we're trying to follow that like driving line a little bit more, and we're a bit further down now. We can see a building just down here, and as we go further along, and here we've come to some bushes as a background. So as we go back out here, sorry for this jumping back and forward, but I have to like make sure that this is clear as possible during this, because Here we've got buildings, we've got these kind of bushes here, and way down here we've got a driveway, and that's where those bushes continue to pop out. Or sorry, begin to pop out. Here you see it more. We've got that grass, but we haven't got that bushy background until down here. So we've had to give ourselves enough time to believe that we've gotten that distance, so maybe like 50 meters or something, driving, to make this make sense. And this was a big challenge actually in the cut, in the edit, to make this one flow as nice as possible, because there was a few takes which were good, but the timing was off. So we had to kind of make the compromise and choose what we did. Here is what you can see, to make that believable jump here. And now it's a small detail, but it's a very important detail when you're doing stuff like this. So just be aware when you're doing your short films that you're aware of this. So continuing on, hopefully you've all seen this short film before I break it down. If not, it doesn't matter. Spoilers, total spoilers. This has spoiled the whole film for you, technically, and all of the tiny little details here is going to ruin this film for you anyway. Okay, so the next shot we are looking at here is the bang. So super simple. Krista reaching for the door to release his shirt that he got stuck in here. So let's go back and put the audio on. So I'm going to stop talking so you can hear the progression through this, and I'm going to let this run right through to the next scene.
Helvete, ass! Sorry.
Alright, I'm going to stop it there. Super simple. However, the sounds that you hear here, they are recorded afterwards. So when you hear the sound of the bike being hit and the screeching of the tires, we worked, a couple of hours to get these sounds right. So without scrolling through and making lots of sound, this here was filmed, this scene was actually filmed stationary again because we wanted to get that shock horror moment. So this was breaking the 180 degree rule, because I was over here behind his shoulder before, remember, and then down on the footwell, but this is going on the other side. So this is kind of breaking a little bit of the 180 degree rules here. But I felt like it worked, so made that decision, and that it worked. So the blackouts were just to enhance some of the things going on there, to enhance some of the emotion that was going on. So we have the car pull up here. So a few times, as you can see on this detail, it's actually mirrored. Unfortunately, this perspective wasn't possible in that circumstance because, it didn't run with the direction, it didn't run with the flow, because the car was coming from the right to the left, and we did this scene coming from the left to the right. So it's actually, as you can see here, when I stop it, you can see that everything is back to front. But when you see everything flowing here, because you see the car coming from right to left, just to make this continuity flow, it wouldn't make sense if this car was coming from the other way. So I just had to mirror this scene, and then it made sense. Not too many people would look at this because it's moving quite quick, but again, it's just a small editing trick to pull you out of a tight spot if you need to. Again, making sure that the positions of the car and everything is making sense. So here, coming from the right to the left, and now the car is in that position as we can see there from right to left. And what gives it away a little bit there is that the car itself has a dent, and you don't see that necessarily when the car stops here, but that's a good thing. So just a small detail to be aware of that. Now here is some slider action, dynamic slider action, and then this is where the dialogue starts. So let's have a little listen to this one and let it roll through.
Sorry, herregud. Jeg så deg ikke i det hele tatt. Jeg skal hjelpe deg. Fy faen. Går det bra, eller?
Alright, so now technically looking here, this image is pretty well balanced. There's nothing too hot. I've got a neutral density filter on the lens. And here we notice that the sun is not directly on Krista, like here. As you can see on this shot here, it's evident that the sun is coming from over here. It's pretty hard on Krista himself. And then as we look here, we see more of these highlights. We've still got like this lovely detail in the shadow here. But as we go along, we notice that this scene from here, the lighting and everything here changes, because not too much, but we can see a big difference in the close-up here opposed to this one. Again, I try to make it look as natural as possible. With the action going on here, we can kind of believe that this is going on here. But this is switching over to the Carl Zeiss 85mm, and I was pretty wide open and stopped down, and we had Henrik, one of the guys, to come. Well, one of the voice actors in this, to come along and hold up a reflector, a transparent 5-in-1 fold-out reflector with the cover you can pull off, and you've got this translucent white there. That was to block off the sun directly off Krista's face, so that we could keep these levels nice here in the background and also on him. So that was well balanced essentially, so we get a nice picture. We can see that it's a little bit hot on the back of Michelle's head here. Michelle is one of the other actors, of course, or the actress. But it's still kind of believable in this thing. So again, over the shoulder shot, cameras on the tripod, because I was doing the audio as well. So let's have a little look at the behind the scenes stuff here. So if we go down further here, here's the 85mm on the camera. We have it blocking the matte box, blocking a bit off the sun that was coming in. Some preparation, yeah, and here essentially I have got the mic on the boom. Try to get as close as possible to Krista and Michelle when they were talking, and I split the dialogue up because I didn't have two microphones, and you know, it's just a little bit difficult to make sure that works smoothly. So we split up the dialogue from Krista's perspective all the way through, and then from Michelle's perspective all the way through. This is here the opening shot. If we go back to Krista coming here with this wrap around that bike handle. Actually, I really loved this shot because it showed it from Michelle's perspective, but then boom, revealing Krista into the scene. This is really some of my fancy favorite camera work here. So as you can see here, I've got the slider on some boxes just to give me some of the right height, and then to slide around Michelle. Oh, here's a good photo of that. So push in and slide around. So I've got the camera on the slider on a little tripod head, and there's Michelle just chilling like a villain. And that was that shot there. Fantastic shot. So we've got Krista blowing out, "Oh my God, I hit you." and now the disaster shot. But this is part of the magic of movie making. Again, we got this lovely soft light with this background. Everything's pretty high up there if you look at the levels, but you know, everything is pretty much where I wanted it, spot on. So we've got I could have crushed the blacks a little bit more, but in this circumstance, I thought it was fine, everything being pretty high key. So if we have a look at the levels on Krista, you know, and Michelle, they're pretty much the same. I mean, Krista's got a black top there. We've got the car in the background, so we see a little bit more down there. But then as we go on and have a look at Michelle's background, she's got the street or car park in the background here reflecting some of that sun. But we've got Henrik holding the reflector over here on this side, making sure that that's not super duper hot on Michelle here. So if we go back to the behind the scenes shots here, thank you to Henrik. So there's Henrik right here for getting these behind the scenes shots for us. This was fantastic. There's Krista, and then there's Michelle, and they're making the fake blood. As we can see on Michelle's face here, she's got fake blood. So I'm holding the mic boom pole to get it as close to Michelle's head. So I've got the mic about here. Again, trying to keep it at eye level. I didn't want to come over Krista's shoulder because that would just be looking too much down on Michelle. I wanted to give that look up to Krista with this one here. So Krista looking down, pretty much from Michelle's eye height here. And then looking at from Krista's shoulder, so still giving us perspective in the whole image, the whole thing. It's kind of believable in this scene. So not stepping over this 180 degree line here. So I've got my line on this side here, and I'm not going to step over it. And this just gives us nice continuity between the pictures. So if we're having a look at the conversation going on here. I'll just let this one go from the beginning.
Skal jeg hjelpe deg? Å, fy faen. Går det bra, eller?
Ja, det kjennes overraskende bra ut, faktisk.
Altså, du blør skikkelig, liksom. Jeg må nesten bare ta deg til legevakta.
Nei, ikke tenk på det. Det går helt fint. Null stress.
Ja, men vent da. Du skal ikke sjekke i hvert fall. Det kan være alvorlig, da.
All right. So, quick dialogue scene. Really fun to create. Super simple with the technique. If we have a look at the camera there, I think I've got... Oh, yeah. So I've got a variable ND there just to keep the levels down. I made sure that the histogram was showing all of that information without any clipping, which was good. And unfortunately, I don't have any pictures of Henrik holding the reflector for this one. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. So as we can see there... very nice with the levels here. This is what I find to be a really good, well-controlled image, and the picture looks fantastic. Going on to this one, we are now back at the wide, kind of from that crashed bike position. Krista's calling out, you should go see a doctor. It could be, dangerous for your health, whatever. Revealing a little bit more of the scene. So here we reveal the house that was back at the original one of the scenes here. If we go back here, we start to see that building in one of the shots. I think, yeah, we start to see it down here, but unless you look totally deep at these details, whatever, but we wanted to make sure that continuity was good. So these aren't extras, these are just public having a walk. This is a student building where students live, and there's a university up here. So Krista dusts himself off, and this was a slow slide out action. So Michelle exit. I let that dictate the movement of the camera here. Krista looks super surprised. We'll turn the audio back on and let this one run.
Faen, den er jo ikke blå! Helvete. Satan!
Alright, so there we can, if you heard that, we hear the telephone ringing inside the car, and he jumps back in, realizing that he has a job interview. So he's crashed into a girl, realizes, oh shit, that's that. So, technically super simple. And this ends our scene. Then the rest of the video actually was just dialogue. So we only hear dialogue in this one. So
men sa at intervjuet var I dag.
Ja, og beklager, jeg tror kanskje jeg blir litt forsinket. Det var litt kaos.
Yeah, so we stopped that one there because there's no visuals. We drove back out to the car park, and then we sat both Henrik and Krista in the cars, and I recorded a telephone conversation of Krista with Henrik, just to give that real effect. And the blackness was to emphasize that there was the conversation going on here, so you had to concentrate on this. Now, call me lazy for not actually filming Krista or his mouth or something here, but actually I kind of use this to break the rules a little bit here in the filmmaking by putting a black screen and just, you know, making the picture in your head that, okay, Krista is now like feeling the way he is feeling. So if we go all the way to the end, yeah, and then we have some more of this car action, and you can see a little bit more of the gimbal work going on here. So car going by, and we see that Krista is trying to concentrate on the road as cars come by, and you know, again, you know, super small budget film. You can't expect so much. So that is the breakdown for Sånn Dag. Yeah, thanks for watching that mess. No, it wasn't a mess. It was a lot of fun actually to create that film, and it took 5 days in total to create that film. And then a couple of days just to go through editing and making sure that the scenes all flowed and felt right. In the time, it was kind of like, whoa, it's a lot of work to make a short film, and this short film is only a couple of minutes long. So, you know, you got to imagine what it's like to make a feature film, how much work's involved there, and all the people, and when you've got actually budgets involved. But this is really a good example of when you've got a certain amount of equipment. You know, if you feel limited ever to create a short film or anything like this, you've got to go, no, actually, what is my limitations, and how do you work around that, and how do you create an image at the end of the day that looks good and that flows. So your story is one aspect of it. You've got to have a nice little story, so this one flowed through. So we spent a couple of days storyboarding and going, okay, well, how do we want this to come about? So the first initial idea in this actually was Krista had lived a similar experience like this, and he thought it was so ridiculous that he had his jacket caught in the door, and he tried to get his phone out of the well. So this is kind of true to the events of what happened to Krista, minus the extreme what we did here of filming it, and also minus opening the door on the girl and knocking her off the bike. That didn't happen, but that was something that I added in later. Like, what happens when you open the door? Like, should we make it something that's like totally outrageous? And is it believable? Yeah, it is believable, but there was kind of the underlying message here of like, you know, you shouldn't really be doing all this kind of stuff while stressed and driving, because it can be dangerous. So it was a little bit of like, an awareness short film at the same time in all of this, just to create that awareness, because you can do serious damage. But the kind of happy-go-luckiness of the flow of this film is that it turned out all right. She didn't want any trouble. She wasn't hurt that badly. Krista was concerned about it, realised all this kind of stuff, but then we had that snap back to reality that he was late for a job interview. So there was quite a lot of layers that went into creating this film, in terms of what we wanted to achieve story-wise, and how I wanted to achieve it visually. Because all of the visuals, all of the perspectives was planned by myself, because I wanted to, one, test out how these perspectives and scenes flowed together, and how that working so intimately with Krista, because it was pretty much just Krista and I working throughout the entire video production. It wasn't only till later, till Michelle came along and did the scene on the bike, and luckily Henrik was there to hold the reflector and to take some of the behind the scenes shots to document that, because these things do require little extra technical help. Sometimes you can't always rely on having a stand there, so it's good to have someone with a reflector. And if you've got the camera on a tripod and you've got you're also operating the audio on the boom, and at that time I didn't have it didn't have a field mixer or anything like that. So I've got a little field mixer here, which is fantastic for playing with the audio, but I only had just the Zoom H4n plugged in, and trying to really dial in and making sure that the wind wasn't coming over the microphone, because I had no capsule over the microphone. I had to think really of like, where are my limitations and how am I successfully going to get that? So for an example, during the dialogue scene, when Krista and Michelle were having that conversation, I had to stop some of the scenes there, unfortunately, because a little bit of wind came and just blew and totally ruined the audio. So there's things that you have to go, okay, now we've got a window, we have to do it, we have to perform. And also what's even funnier is that I was running the Pocket Cinema camera off these little Canon batteries, but I had some like really poor quality ones. And I didn't have my V-Lock system at that stage, my more powerful batteries to run that system for hours. I was really relying on these ones. So as the day got on and the more scenes that we did, I was just smashing out batteries. So I had 6 pieces of these batteries, and we chewed through all of them. And the last scene there, as Krista, the last scene as we go, I'll just quickly go back to this one. And here, this last scene was the final battery. That was the absolute ball grabber of a situation, because we were like, oh my God, I hope we don't run out of batteries, because we can't come and do this again, and the sun's going to go and it's probably going to be different the next day, and then we don't have timing with Michelle. But luckily the battery had literally 15 seconds on it after that, just so I could review it and see if it recorded or not, and then it turned off, and that was the scene done. So stress on my behalf, because I was relying on my technology to get the thing done, and Krista said, no, I don't like it. But there was a compromise, with all these kind of things. We knew that this was the limitation. However, part of it being excitement, part of it being really scary, because you don't want to have to come and do it all over again. That's just the reality of it. And you kind of see yourself after you create short films, or you do like collaborative work with other people. You go, okay, well, how much of it is equipment, and how much of it is reliable equipment, and how much of it is skill, and all this kind of stuff. Like, there is a mixture with all of this, and it's so interesting, coming from that experience. And it's just one of many experiences that I've had, going, okay, well, what do I need to pull this off? And like literally skating on ice with that one, but with the equipment that we had, we were able to pull off creating really fantastic looking scenes with really like low budget equipment. I mean, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, what a fantastic little camera. It did, however, cost a lot more after rigging it up, so the speed booster, the cage, and all that kind of business. Okay, so the camera is relatively expensive, you know, but not too expensive in terms of like, okay, well, I'm going to bust out and get myself a cinema camera. This is a little bit different in terms of the production thing, and what I'm filming on is also one of these production cameras. But all in all, at the end of the day, you've got to look at working with what you've got and trying to create the best out of what you have. So I had a microphone, a Zoom H4n, I had a reflector, which also worked as a diffuser. I had my slider, and I had my camera with a couple of lenses. So I literally used 3 lenses, the 85, the 50, and the 11-16 from memory. I think that was everything. And using natural light in the best possible, you know, situations. So making sure that, or trying to make sure that the sun wasn't directly in the face, but more backlit, or, you know, kind of backside kind of thing. So we don't blow out the face, but we get more of a nice rim light, etc., etc. And then trying to use things to bounce light, whether it's a reflector or just, you know, something. There's so many things to think about, of course, when you're doing this, and when you're doing it alone, it's even more like, whoa, it's quantified. But at the end of the day, awesome experience, so much fun, and it's one of those things that you go, man, I'm so glad I did this. I'm so proud of my effort of doing it. And when you actually complete that, we put this short film into a couple of film festivals, and we didn't get selected, unfortunately, but, you know, we were happy with that result, that we were like, okay, let's just put it out there for people to enjoy. And, you know, that's the fun of this. It's a story, but it's also, you know, a drama. It's over the top, and it's fun to kind of try and create those things and make sure that they're very well represented in the film as best as possible, and also working with people tightly and going, okay, you got to make these decisions, and then how are these scenes, and how's the flow, and all this kind of stuff. And then the editing is like, for me, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of editing. I like to kind of do things as best as possible in camera, and then, you know, when I come into the editing suite, I just go plonk into DaVinci, couple of contrast and maybe saturation or whatever here and there, but I try not to muck around with the picture as much as possible, unless of course it's stylistic. But in this one, it's kind of truer to life, and that's the good thing about, you know, cameras that are specifically designed for making cinema, I guess you could say, is the Pocket Cinema camera is the cinema camera, and it's designed to have that nice resolution, the nice dynamic range, and that picture is also you know, full of color, and, you know, shooting in RAW as well, you have that flexibility, blah blah blah. So when saying budget cinema camera, okay, there are more expensive options out there, a la Red, and but for a budget, and if you have like $5,000 for a budget, or 5,000 euros for a budget, it might seem like a lot, but once you get this gear and then you start realizing what's flexible to do with that, then you realize how cool it is, and you probably end up investing more. Like I have, you know, lights, computers, mixers, microphones, 2 cameras. It goes on and on and on, but you also figure out that this is to your taste, and this is to your desire for creating an image, and this is something that's connected to making short films or working on feature films. Working on feature films is a complete other ballpark, but if you're on a short film, and particularly the indie short films, you have so much room for creativity. But, you know, it's nice to be able to give yourself some constraints, give yourself some restrictions, so you can work within a guideline or a style or all this kind of stuff. Because if you go a little bit too outrageous, then it's too experimental, and you kind of lose a little bit of direction, and you lose a little bit of your head, really. But if you go, okay, well, I've got these 3 lenses, I've got 1 light, I've got a reflector, I've got my slider, tripod, whatever. This is what I have to do to try and pull it off. Now within Sånn Dag there was a few techniques. So we got handheld, we had slider action, we had tripod action, we had gimbal action. So there's 4 elements right there, so like a tripod costs money, a gimbal costs money, slider costs money, and all this kind of stuff. Yes, arguably there's well into 1,500 euros or 2,000 bucks, mate. Not for that kind of stuff, but for the stuff that I have, yes. Then there's the lenses. So you've got an 85mm. I had the Carl Zeiss Classic. That costs a little bit of money, but you can get a Canon one or a Nikon, or you can find even some of the classic lenses from, I don't know, Zenit or something like this, that cost you $50, $100. Get an adapter for $5-10, and you've got a really good lens, and you can still get that perspective, you can still get that compression and all this kind of stuff. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. And then a 50mm, you can find a 50mm from $50 to $10,000. I don't know, but again, if you're on a super small budget, got to look at what the equipment that you have in the budget that you have, or the equipment that you actually own or whatever. Or I mean, if you can hire, great, but hiring also costs a lot of money, really, if you certain gear. Again, that's debatable. You can find stuff. For example, we have a website here in Norway that the individuals can rent stuff out, and I've also got this service where I can rent my camera gear out and lights and whatever as a private person, which is cool. And then the cheapest thing in the world is a reflector. These 5-in-1 foldable reflectors. You've got the silver, you've got the gold, you've got the black, you've got the white, and you've got the translucent. And that thing, I've got 3 of those things. They are worth their weight in gold times a million, because they will save your butt with a lot of things. And I can't stress that enough, that they are one of the things that you need to have in your kit, really. And it's cost you I don't know, 20 euros or something, or 30 bucks max. And that'll save your butt all in all. And then audio is an important one, really. Everybody kind of gets carried away with how the picture looks and all this kind of stuff, but without good audio, man, your picture suffers. So I would definitely focus on doing a good job with audio as best as you can. There are fixes here and there, and you can also do after recordings, like we did with this one, with sound effects like the bike, the trashing of the door, the sound of the car tire screeching, etc., etc. They were done after and then brought into the editing and put in there for that. So there are little tips and tricks here and there that you can do, and they are also really fun to discover along the way. You're like, okay, well, how is that going to be believable in the edit? And this is the great thing about editing, is that you can layer up things, you can add in things afterwards. It's just important on the day that you get a good take with the video, audio as best as you possibly can. And, of course, that's also dependent on your actors as well. If your actors do a fantastic job like Krista and Michelle did, fantastic. I really enjoyed that moment, and being there as they were acting, it was really fun. And afterwards we had a good laugh and a joke about things and had a good time. And then when we had our film premiere, everybody was like, "Wow, that was a really fun short film." And that was the great relief and the great satisfaction of it all, that other people enjoyed it at the end of the day. And speaking of enjoying, I hope that you all enjoyed this short film breakdown video. Pretty long-winded, I know, but there are a lot of elements that go into making this thing. So yeah, give me some feedback to this video if you liked it, and let me know if there is anything you would like to see me break down, go through technically, talk about, or whatever, and just give me a heads up. I'd like to hear that from you guys in the Patreon community, because you're supporting me and I'm here to support you as best as I possibly can. Suggestions are always great. But that is it for now. I've had enough talking. I'm about to go down and have myself a coffee, chill out a little bit, enjoy the sun because the sun is finally out. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video.